Subtube, Buddha here, and I've returned to see that Harpies have gotten a major buff. As a fan of My Valentine, I invested in them immediately, only to find out that it's actually tier 1 on the Duel Links meta tier list. Had no idea until I'd already invested in the archetype. Now, if you're the type of duelist who pukes at the sight of a tiered deck, I hope you'll indulge me here, because personally I think the best way to overcome difficult decks is by playing or studying them. If you consider yourself a rogue duelist, that's even more of a reason to play meta, because it deepens your understanding of the meta and how it works, and also tells you what to anticipate when building your rogue deck. So in the end, playing meta just makes you a better rogue duelist. Some food for thought. The drawback to playing meta is that everyone has seen your deck before, and knows how to respond to it. During my COG rank up, I was going second against Anomat, and they actually played this on turn 1. Ending my COG rank up duel, because this is actually a hard counter to Harpies, something I'll talk about here in a bit. Now, because this deck is tier 1, you've probably seen it a million times by now, which is why I'm not going to go over every play individually, and instead go over some choice information that could perhaps deepen our understanding of the deck. If you're thinking about playing Harpies, or if you've been struggling against them, I hope that this first section of the video is of benefit to you. If you want to skip to the action, there is a timeline in the description for you to navigate through the replays. As far as openings are concerned, the primary Harpies you're going to want in your hand starting out, whether going first or second, is Harpy Channeler and another Harpy card, or Harpy Perfumer, preferably Channeler, because if you discard a Harpy card from your hand, you can special summon any Harpy monster from your deck, and that's including Oracle, Perfumer, or whatever, what have you. Harpy Channeler and Swallow's Nest are the only two cards that can summon any Harpy from the deck. Elegant Egotist can only summon base Harpy Lady, because these other Harpies' effects, their name changes into Harpy Lady when they're on the field or in the graveyard. In the deck, they retain their original name, and because of that, they can't be summoned by Elegant Egotist, which only summons Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters from the hand or deck. Harpy Lady 1, its name is always treated as quote-quote Harpy Lady. So this is the only card you can summon using Elegant Egotist. When I first started using Harpies, I thought I could summon Perfumer or whoever I wanted with Egotist. That's something to keep in mind. This card is great, but it is a little bit limited, and it is what forces us to run 2 to 3 copies of this card here. What's so great about opening up with Channeler, especially in turn 1, is that if you discard any other Harpy monster, using her effect and then special summon Perfumer to search Harpy's Feather Rest or Elegant Egotist, then you can you'll have 3 Harpies in the graveyard by the time you summon your Slash Harpy, and then you can use the Harpy's Feather Rest to draw 2 cards. It's usually just 1 card after shuffling 3 Harpy Lady monsters into the deck, but if Slash Harpy Lady is on the field, then you can draw 2 cards. So that's why it's so good going first. You want to open up with your Channeler, discard whatever, summon Perfumer, and then search this card if you don't have it, or search the Egotist if you already do. Use your Harpy's Feather Rest. You've probably seen this opening combo before. Now going second, you may want to go straight for the Egotist, because that can line you up for an OTK. Also, if you don't open up with Channeler, but you open up with Perfumer, you'll want to normal summon Perfumer, search the Egotist so you can get that second Harpy onto the field so you can summon your Cyber Slash that way. Of course, that's a weaker play than leading off with Channeler because it puts less Harpies in your graveyard. As you can see, I'm running the Harpy's Last Will, which puts a Harpy's Feather Duster into your hand if you have 4 or more Harpy cards in your graveyard. So you'll want to stack up your graveyard with Harpy cards if you're running this skill. Now, if you don't start off with either Harpy Channeler or Harpy Perfumer, then you're looking at a struggle starting off. That's why I run 2 of the Harpy Harpist. Usually I'll play 1 in defense mode. Like let's say I start off with a Harpist, Oracle, Forbidden Lance, and for education's sake, let's say Treacherous Trap Hole, which isn't too bad, but not favorable because I can't summon the Slash Harpy on turn 1. I'd probably play a Harpist in defense mode with that Treacherous Trap Hole down there to either disrupt my opponent or to send Harpist into the graveyard to put Channeler into my hand at my opponent's end phase. For the most part, you're going to want to open up with Harpy Channeler or Harpy Perfumer, and that's where I'm running 3 copies of each. Now, Harpist is one of the monsters you may see less often, given that her effects are kind of slow. This first effect here, when she's normal summoned, you can target any wing beast type monster other than her, and one face-up monster your opponent controls, and return them both to the hand. I've never used that effect, and it's never been used against me. Requires some prior setup. And this build here is lightning fast, so it doesn't make much use out of an effect like that. Her other effect is at the end phase. If she's in the graveyard because she was sent there that turn, I can search any other Harpy monster from my deck. So that's helpful. As I was saying earlier, like if I opened up with her but not Channeler or Perfumer or Egotist, I'd probably just play her in defense mode and hope that it doesn't get bounced or banished in turn 2. If she's sent to the graveyard, then that could put Channeler in my hand and possibly set up a recovery for me in turn 3. Now, before tech cards in the EX deck, a couple more things I want to go over. First off, Harpy Oracle is amazing. If I had to put it into words, I think Harpy Oracle would be the difference between an A tier Harpy deck and an S tier Harpy deck. And that's because Harpy Oracle greatly increases your recovery rate, given her effect that if she's special or normal summoned at that end phase, whether she's still on the field or in the graveyard or banished, it doesn't really matter. As long as you successfully normal or special summon her without being negated, then you can return a Harpy spell or trap card with the name Harpy Lady Sisters in it from the graveyard to your hand. So that's including these two. Harpy's Hunting Ground if you're running that, or there's a couple other Harpy cards as well, but I'm not going to go too deep into those. Harpy Oracle is great, especially when she's sent back into the deck using Harpy's Feather Rest. These two cards work great together. Now, one thing to watch out for is if you use the Harpy's Feather Rest, you cannot special summon any monsters except for Wind type for the rest of the turn. Now, this has caught me off guard. I've actually lost a couple of duels because, I wasn't thinking about this limitation here. I would use the Harpy's Feather Rest at the beginning of the turn and then think I can follow up later on by summoning number 70, the Malevolent Sin. But it's actually Dark Attribute. So after using Harpy's Feather Rest, I won't be able to summon that. Something to keep in mind there. The last card I want to talk about here is the Hysteric Sign. And as you can see, I'm not running this card anymore. I was trying to use it at first, but I couldn't find a viable build that wasn't too dependent on drawing this and another card to discard it. It was just too dependent on drawing the right hand and thus not very consistent, at least not the way that I was building it. I was trying to use a bigger build, and you may see that in ranked every now and then, a bigger build of maybe 26, 24, 27 cards. That's running this Hysteric Sign alongside cards like Karma Cut, Hollowed Life Barrier, and the Hysteric Party, which basically raises any Harpy Lady from the grave by discarding a card. Hysteric Sign, when discarded at that end phase, that's if it's sent from the field or the hand to the graveyard. At that end phase, you can add 3 Harpy cards with different names from your deck to your hand. Now that is enormous card advantage, but there has to be a little bit of prior setup. Its other effect is when it's activated, it's a continuous spell trap, or a continuous spell. When it's activated, you can add an Elegant Egotist from your deck or graveyard to your hand, creating some card advantage or possibly even some recovery. Now, the reason I stopped running this card was because if you look at my build here, it's pretty solid. Can you really think of any card here that you would replace with Hysteric Sign? Exactly. I mean, maybe you would, but me personally, I decided that in the end, it's better to just run 20 cards and go with the faster build. The larger build using this card was great when it worked, but as I said earlier, it wasn't very consistent and thus not very good for cogging with. Moving on to tech cards, Forbidden Lance is obvious because of all that nasty back row we have to deal with, especially going against Blue Eyes, trying to Karma Cut your Channeler. The reason I'm running this instead of, like, let's say Space Typhoon or Cosmic Cyclone is because of that effect you can use here in the damage step. You can really catch people off guard with that. Also, going against opposing Harpy Ladies, she can't activate her effect if you activate Forbidden Lance in the damage step. So Lance is a really good card for anti-back row with some versatile use there. Swallow's Nest is obvious. Tribute any Wing Beast type monster to special summon any Wing Beast type monster with the same level from your deck. This is here to offset, maybe drawing into this and this starting off going turn 1. Use my Swallow's Nest to get my Channeler in there. or my Perfumer if I don't have another Harpy card to discard to activate Channeler's effect. Swallow's Nest also is what helps me to get 4 Harpies into the graveyard so I can get the Harpy's Feather Duster. Excellent card to use. Or I can even use it, like let's say I have a Harpy slash lady or slash Harpy. You know what I mean. If I have this card and any other Harpy on the field, then I can set the Swallow's Nest and use it to activate slash Harpy's effect. Now, I was using the enemy controller here in these last 2 slots, and that's still pretty dang good, especially like if you just want to use it to activate slash Harpy's effect here. But in the end, I decided that Treacherous Trap Hole is the superior option, given that everyone's trying to XC summon or Synchro summon. It's really good going against Blue Eyes. When they got, their Tuner and their Blue Eyes on the field, you can just blow both of them away with the Treacherous Trap Hole. It's good going against opposing Harpies, and so on and so forth. Abyss Dweller is there for Blue Eyes to stop their stones from activating in the graveyard. Malevolent Sin is obvious. A really great offensive choice, especially when paired alongside Cyber / Harpy Lady. If they have the Photon Strike Bouncer or the Fire King Arvada on the field for the negate, you can bait that using the / Harpy Lady's effect and then follow up with Malevolent Sin for the banish. Really great combo right there. Thunder Spark Dragon is the only response to Luna Light Saber Dancer, otherwise she completely counters this deck. Believe it or not, even after the nerf, we're still seeing the Luna Lights in ranked. At least I have been. And you'll see one of the replays that Thunder Spark Dragon kind of saved my butt against Lunas. Lastly, we have this Patriarch. This card is a direct counter to Harpies, and I learned this the hard way. Now, in short, what this card does basically is once per chain during either player's turn, if there are 2 or more monsters with the same name on the field, you can detach material from the card to choose one monster among those with the same name and destroy all other monsters with that name. Furthermore, while this card remains on the field, after that effect was activated, then the opponent cannot summon any monsters with that same name as the one that was chosen for that effect. Okay. So what makes this a direct counter to Harpies is that every Harpy monster that's on the field, their name changes into Harpy Lady. So let's say against opposing Harpies, I have the Cyber / Harpy Lady and this on the field. I can prevent them from summoning anything. Basically what would happen is they would summon their Harpy Channeler. I would immediately chain this thing's effect, target my Cyber / Harpy Lady, whose name on the field is Harpy Lady, destroying the Channeler, and basically locking Elegant Egotist. Because that name, Harpy Lady, she won't be able to be summoned from the deck. Sure, you can normal summon a Harpist or Perfumer because their name doesn't change into Harpy Lady until they're on the field, but you can't get a second Harpy Lady onto the field. Alternatively, I could remove one of these Cyber / Harpy Ladies and replace it with Daigusto Emerald, because it does have an effect that's similar to Harpy's Feather Rest, given that it can target 3 monsters in the graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card. Its secondary effect can target 1 normal monster in the graveyard and special summon it. If you want to run the OG Harpy Lady, which is a normal monster, then that effect becomes available to you as well. But for the most part, I wasn't really using this card, so I replaced it with the 3rd copy of Cyber /. I may replace that 3rd copy with the Daigusto Emerald again on a later date, but whatever. I cogged without it, so I didn't really need it. I've got some narrated replays coming up where I explain some situations that may occur while you're playing Harpies. But before we go with that, if you're enjoying this video, please go ahead and leave a like. It does go a long way. And yeah. Now you'll notice that I'm using an alias in most of these duels, but just know that that's me, down there. This one's against Magician Girls, and it's actually a pretty decent duel to start things off here. Drawback is that I'm going second, so she is going to be able to set some back row. This is back when I was running the enemy controller, and you'll see that Treacherous probably would have been the better choice here. Now with Fiendish Chain, not only is that going to stop me from summoning this turn into my boss monster, not the Thunder Spark, but the Cyber /. But Fiendish Chain also changes Channeler's name back to her original name. So if I had the Elegant Egotist in my hand, I wouldn't have been able to use it this turn because you have to have Harpy Lady on the field to use it. Something to keep in mind, Fiendish Chain is actually a soft counter to Harpy, so be careful. Luckily, she didn't have anything too threatening in turn 3, so I am able to go ahead and continue on with my original plan here. Get the Harpy's Feather Rest into my hand, summon the Cyber / Harpy Lady. She has the Void Trap Hole, and that's actually a prismatic Void Trap Hole, so kudos for that. Such a pretty card. Luckily, it's not a counter trap, so I am able to chain the Forbidden Lance, targeting my Cyber / Harpy Lady, and then using her effect to get rid of that Chocolate Magician Girl, and retaining her on the field. Now, she uses Berry Magician Girl's effect to get Kiwi Magician Girl on the field, which is not good for me because most of my effects are targeting effects. And when Kiwi Magician Girl's on the field, no Magician Girl cards can be targeted by card effects or destroyed. So even Thunder Spark Dragon couldn't do anything in this scenario. So I was a little scared here. Now I could have crashed, destroying that Kiwi Magician Girl, but the reason I didn't do that was in case she summoned Quintet Magician this turn, in which case I would just chain the second Forbidden Lance, bouncing Quintet Magician back into the extra deck before everything gets decimated. But that's not the case, luckily. Go for my Harpy's Feather Duster. As you can see, she had a second Void Trap Hole there, so that worked out for me. Even though I wasn't really planning on Xyz summoning, because at this point, with Kiwi Magician Girl no longer on the field after being attacked by Cyber Slash, I can chain this Forbidden Lance here and target, whoever, only to bounce it using Cyber Slash's effect and win the duel. So that was a pretty good duel. Yeah, it was fun. All right, got another duel here against Yami Yugi. Usually when we see him, it's like, okay, Destiny draw. A lot of Lunalight players are using him, so usually when I see him, I get a little scared. Lunas are just very explosive. As you can see, I'm going first with quite an excellent hand here. I'm going to start off with my Channeler, get my Harpy's Feather Rest into my hand, and start off with that combo I mentioned earlier in the video. Go ahead and draw my 2 cards here. Now here, I'm going to go for the Egotist, just to get this Harpy Lady on the field, so I can use Swallow's Nest on my opponent's turn if I have to. Along with this Forbidden Lance, it gives me 2 options to activate Cyber Slash's effect. So that's why I got that other Harpy on the field in turn 1. He plays the Ace of Metaphys, which is like, gag. Metaphys is a very difficult deck to play against, given that Daedalus can wipe all of your special summoned monsters off the field with relative ease. And you can see the way he's setting up his board, that's what he plans to do in my turn. He plans to just wipe everything away. Goes for the Daedalus play. Now, I'm going to chain Swallow's Nest here because I don't want this Harpy Lady to be banished, given that she's the only monster I can summon with Elegant Egotist. So I want this one to stay in the graveyard, to be recycled later. But that, of course, also activates Cyber Slash's effect to send Daedalus back to the hand, so that I can rinse and repeat here with my other Channeler. Get my second Egotist into my hand. Go for my Harpy's Feather Duster here. And at that point, my opponent scoops. So my opponent was probably relying on whatever that face down card was to save him. But once that Feather Duster hit the field, he gave up. It was probably frustrating for him to set up that Daedalus play and then, not affect me at all. But that's the nature of Tier 1. Speaking of Lunas, you're guaranteed to run into these, almost guaranteed to run into the Lunalights at least once or twice on your road to Cog. Now, he skips turn 1. Just skips his turn, plays nothing. At this point, I know what I'm up against. He wants me to attack him to activate his Destiny draw, and then stop whatever second attack I have with Kuriboh or whatever, so he can Destiny draw in turn 3 and hit me with the Lunalight OTK. I already know this. However, I have the biggest brain fart, and I hope that some of you can relate to what I'm about to do here. So I'm going for my usual combo. I go for the Elegant Egotist instead of the Harpy's Feather Rest because just in case, he's got a bad hand or something, I go for the Swallow's Nest to bring an Oracle, which is something you haven't seen me do yet. And there's a couple reasons why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to recover my Egotist, in case I miss. And because it puts a 4th Harpy in the graveyard. As I did mention earlier in the video, Swallow's Nest helps me activate that skill. Now, major brain fart. Even though I know this is Destiny Draw Lunalights, I attack with the stronger monster first, which of course he lets go through because he wants to activate Destiny Draw. Had I attacked with the weaker monster first, he probably wouldn't have used his Karibo. He would have used it on the Slash Harpy Lady, but then he would not have activated Destiny Draw. So I knew what was happening the moment before I even saw that Karibo. I was like, I can't believe I attacked him with this first. You know, huge brain fart for me. So now he's got his Destiny Draw. And then immediately summons this because he knows Lunalight Saber Dancer is a counter to Harpies. You know, we've all seen this before. No need for explanation. I let that attack go through. Alternatively, I could have gone for Lance or the enemy controller. Maybe bouncing this into not bouncing, but changing this into attack mode and then bouncing my own Harpy Lady to protect my life points. But then I would have lost this Harpy in the process. You know, instead he just would have attacked this right here. And I wanted to have as many Harpies on the field as possible because you know what I'm about to do. Don't need the Harpy's Feather Duster, so I just throw that out. And boom. And at this point, it's just breaking through his defenses. That's why I run the Thunder Spark Dragon. You know, it's the only thing that can get through Saber Dancer there. You know, as you can see, he's got a bunch of hand traps, you know. At this point, it's just a matter of breaking through it. I don't think he can recover. Now, if he summoned another one, another Saber Dancer, then I would have been in a lot of trouble. But luckily, that wasn't the case with this duel. Okay, now we're in for the mirror match here. And I have no idea what's in store for me here. I actually learned a great deal from this duel, as you're about to witness. So she's running the Harpy's Hunting Ground, and I prefer not to use that one because of this. Boom. She got no use out of that. Even you know, and she may be able to recover it at the end phase of this turn using a Harpy Oracle, gaining some card advantage there. But I much prefer the Harpy's Feather Duster. Even if like I went first, I would have blown that away, giving her no use with that card in turn 2. So I much prefer the Harpy's Last Will. But moving on, as you can see, she's got a pretty big play, or as you're about to see. And she's running the bigger build with the Hysteric Sign that I was mentioning earlier in the video. Harpy Oracle. Then she goes into this, okay? And I had to read this card. I was unfamiliar with it prior to this duel. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, that could be bad for me, but I didn't realize just how bad it was. As you're about to witness from my response, I go for the Harpist here. Even though I could have played Elegant Egotist, if Harpy Lady's on the field, you can use it, even if that Harpy Lady is controlled by your opponent. But I go for my Harpist first. She immediately changes things effect, destroying that because her name was Harpy Lady on the field. Also meaning that I can't use the Elegant Egotist as long as this is on the field. My entire deck has been locked. There's nothing I can do. It was after this duel that I started running Patriarch in my deck, so I could do the same to other opposing Harpies. Sometimes the best way to learn is to get wrecked. So when you see Kite, it's pretty obvious what you're gonna run into. Sometimes you see the random Kite using Blue Eyes, but for the most part, it's gonna be Galaxy Eyes. Now they're going first, and the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to demonstrate how frustrating Duel Links can be sometimes. Okay, so you know he has the perfect hand going first, and since he went first, I mean he gets everything. You know, he already set one card. He uses a skill to get the Photon Stream of Destruction, but this one here that he set before he even used his skill is telling me he might have 2. Now since I didn't draw anti-back row, then I've pretty much lost here. This is what I call a 50-50 situation. He went first, I went second with no anti-back row. I lose by default. You can tell by how quickly I scooped there that I was infuriated by that. I mean, there was nothing I could do. I lost because I pulled the short straw. You know, I didn't lose because I was outplayed. I didn't lose because I made a mistake. I lost because I went second with no anti-back row. And there's a lot of situations like that nowadays, this year. A lot of 50-50 situations where if I don't draw my True Nade, like in my Magnet Warrior deck, you know, I lose. And, you know, that doesn't make for a very good gaming experience. Okay, this duel is against Fire Kings, a deck that we've seen some more usage out of this season. Know when exactly it became tier 2 or even on the tier list at all, but been seeing a lot of Fire Kings this time around. So I'm gonna start off with that usual opening combo. Use my Harpy's Feather Rest, and in doing so I get Oracle into my hand, which allows me to retrieve that Harpy's Feather Rest, as well as set that Swallow's Nest to abuse slash Harpy Lady's effect in the following turn. He got the Fire King Arvada on the field, which is a soft counter to Harpy Lady here, which is why I don't use that Swallow's Nest. Because if I had done that, then it just would have been a waste of a card. I would have brought out another Harpy that would have been attacked anyway. And then her effect just would have been negated. And if in his hand he happened to have, I don't know the boss monster's name. That Firebird that destroys all of the monsters on the field. I don't know its name. Huh. But yeah, moving on. So now I know that he's going to use this Arvada here, okay? And what I mentioned this earlier in the video, where Malevolent Sin comes in. I use her effect to bait Arvada's effect there because it can only be used once per turn. And it looks like he did have, what's that thing's name? Garunix. He did have it in his hand. So if I used her effect last turn to, you know, use that Swallow's Nest, then everything would have gotten wiped off the field in turn 3. So it's a good thing that I didn't activate Cyber Slash's effect. But I'm able to banish it off using Malevolent Sin, use my other Elegant Egotist, and a strike for game. So yeah, very explosive duel right there. Okay, and we've got ourselves a bonus duel here. This one's a lot of fun against something quite unique, as you're about to see. So I'm going first. And I'm going to start off in the usual way. So we're going to speed right through that. Unfortunately, I don't draw any back row. But he plays the Altergeist Marionetter. Which is like, whoa, dude. Never seen this played in Duel Links before. So I don't really know how to respond. He activates that. I chain her effect to send this monster back into his hand. To be honest, I didn't really read its effect. What does it say? Okay, yeah. But then he brings this out, which destroys my slash Harpy Lady. Luckily, I had another play to make, but I get hit with the Canadia, giving him a lead in turn 4. He goes for the Starliege Paladynamo, which is something you don't see very often. That's a very rare card, only available in the special box. As I go for my Perfumer right here, he goes straight for the Tiki Soul, destroying my chance of summoning anything again. So, I set enemy controller end my turn. In turn 6, he's got a major advantage. He goes for the freaking Vision Hero Witch Raider, which is like, what? I immediately have to chain my enemy controller, send that into defense mode to protect my life points, and then I'm damaged for over half my life right there. So at this point, I am stoked. I mean, what an original deck we're against right now. Go for my Harpy's Feather Duster. That also destroys that that Statue of Anguish pattern, which is really slowing me down. Get another Cyber Slash onto the field. Go for my Elegant Egotist. Get rid of the Starliege using Cyber's effect there. And at this point, I'm in the lead. Alternatively, I probably should have searched Oracle right there, because all of my spells are in the graveyard here. And with Oracle, I could have recycled some of them. He goes for the attack there. In the damage step, I go for the Forbidden Lance. At this point, it's all about card advantage. You know, he's got 2 other cards on the field. I have 4, so I'm at +2. He goes for the Floodgate. I respond, bouncing that Harpy back up, so I don't clog my field. At this point, I don't think you can recover just one card. But yeah, I really do want to commend my opponent there. That was a really good duel, and lots of fun, and a great way to end this video. If you enjoyed, please smash that like button, and subscribe if you want to see more. Comment, I do read all of your comments, and I'll respond if I wish. Thank you.